Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Today, I've got 3 Steelers players on the roster right now who I think could possibly be traded before the NFL trade deadline this year. All right, so these are players that are currently on the Steelers roster that I think could be sent elsewhere in a trade before the trade deadline passes on November 10th this season. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section to kick off today's show. Is there any Steelers player that you think that the Steelers should trade right now? If so, which one or ones do you think the Steelers should consider trading before the deadline? So the first thing that I want to say here, guys, and, after a 3-1 start, I think it's pretty self-evident, but I think, it's important to understand that Pittsburgh likely isn't going to be selling this year at the deadline. This is a quote-unquote win-now season for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and, if anything, they're going to be buying at the NFL trade deadline this year. But which means I think if Pittsburgh does trade a player, it's going to be as a part of a deal to get another player. Like, for example, if you want to get a top-flight wide receiver and they want a certain player in return, that's when I think the Pittsburgh Steelers would maybe consider adding one of the players that we're going to be talking about today. But I really think that's the only situation, unless there's a complete collapse before the trade deadline where they lose every single one of their games before November 10th and they're selling at the deadline. The more likely scenario here is that the Steelers will be buying at the deadline. If you're looking for some of the wide receivers that the Steelers could be looking into before the trade deadline this year, we put out a video earlier this week talking about the top trade candidates and targets for the Pittsburgh Steelers to pursue before the trade deadline in early November. So I'll put the link to that one in the top right of today's show, as well as in the comments and description of today's program. But we'll start here with a fan favorite, and for good reason. He's a great guy, hard worker, all those things. Penn State alum, a lot of Penn State fans are Steelers fans as well. But yes, Pat Freiermuth is included on my trade candidates list. Now, I want to make abundantly clear, just because I put Pat on my list today doesn't mean that I think the Steelers 100% should get rid of him. And I'm not saying that Pat Freiermuth stinks, all right? I want to make that abundantly clear to the people watching this video. But why Muth could go it just makes sense, okay, guys, if you just follow me along here. If Pittsburgh wants to play more 3 wide receiver sets, if they don't want to play so much heavy 2 tight end, 3 tight end stuff, and they want to play more spread, more 3 wide receiver formations by the time we get to the deadline, it could make sense to include Muth in a trade to get that other wide receiver to pair with DK Metcalf and Calvin Austin III. And let's be honest, guys, Pat Freiermuth has not been very good to start this season, at least not very productive. All right, he only has 7 catches in 4 games, 65 yards total. Now he averages nearly a first down per catch. He's had a couple nice in-breakers to start this season off, but he has no touchdowns. He honestly got his 1 touchdown opportunity robbed from him from Calvin Austin III in Week 2 versus Seattle, but that's neither here nor there. Pat Freiermuth has not done what he's expected of given the money that he is making right now. And, just to be completely objective with the type of player that Pat Freiermuth is, he's not a difference-making player. I think he's very well-rounded. I think that he's a decent blocker. I think that he is a decent receiving tight end, but he's not like a dynamic route runner. He's not a special contested catch winner. He's not an awesome blocker like Darnell Washington is. He's just kind of okay at a lot of things, and that just kind of culminates in a pretty, serviceable starting tight end, right? He's not a star player, but yet the Steelers are paying him quite a bit of money, all right? Take a look at the highest paid tight ends. They currently are paying 2 of the top 10 highest paid tight ends in all of football, and Pat Freiermuth, of course, is included in that there. He's currently the number 9 highest paid tight end in the sport. So, for somebody that doesn't really provide any like dynamic playmaking ability, he's just kind of like an okay player, you can make an argument that the Steelers are overpaying at this particular position, especially because you already have Jonnu Smith and Darnell Washington on the roster, and both of those guys have very definable roles inside the Steelers offense. And then you take a look at the upcoming cap hits for Pat Freiermuth. You have him under contract for the next 4 years. So, is Pat Freiermuth, if he's going to continue to be kind of this okay type of starting tight end, is he really worth the money that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be dishing out to him and the cap hit that he's going to be taking up over the next 4 seasons? I think that if there's an opportunity to get a big-name wide receiver and they want Pat Freiermuth in exchange for him, along with a draft pick, of course, and you can get this money off your books over the next, the rest of this season and then the next 3 seasons, I think that is something that the Pittsburgh Steelers should at least think about at this juncture, especially if we're talking about a guy like Chris Olave or Jacoby Myers, somebody that could be a legitimate, game-changing type of player for this Steelers offense. And then, you take a look at the rest of the tight end room. I think they'd be perfectly fine if they traded Pat Freiermuth away. You got Jonnu Smith is kind of that receiving type tight end, that smaller tight end to be the receiving guy and be the yak threat that he is and, play his role in the Steelers offense. But then you also have Darnell Washington, who I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to want to let go anytime soon. Like, he is a behemoth. He gives them a huge matchup advantage. He is a red zone weapon. And when his contract comes up, I think the Steelers are going to want to pay him and keep him around because, if they continue down this path of jumbo personnel with him and Spencer Anderson both out there as tight ends, which gives this run game a massive advantage, in my opinion, I don't think that's something that the Steelers are going to want to let go of. So if there's an expendable member of this tight end room, I do think it is Pat Freiermuth. And I just want to say I love Muth as a guy. I think that he's a wonderful human being. He's a hard worker. He's a great ambassador for the team. And, he is a good football player, but he's not a special football player, right? So if trading Muth helps this team get a wide receiver of the caliber of like a Chris Olave or Jacoby Myers or somebody along that line, I'm open to the possibility of letting go of 88 and a draft pick to get that done. Now, coming up here on Steelers Talk, 2 other potential trade candidates that the Steelers could package in a deal to get a top-flight wide receiver or maybe a left tackle after the trade deadline. But before we get into the rest of today's video, let's have a word from our sponsor today at Prize Picks. You and I, we make decisions every single day. But on Prize Picks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Football season is finally here, and you better believe I'll be getting my Prize Picks lineups in all season long. Prize Picks is super simple to play. You just pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and if you get your picks right, you could cash in. Prize Picks also puts their users first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Prize Picks also offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. And a new feature from Prize Picks that is new this season that I absolutely love is injury reboots. If one of your players leaves the game in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks will not count that as a loss. Now, here's my projection for this week's professional football action here, taking the more on passing yards for Justin Herbert, the more on Quentin Johnston receiving yards, and I'm taking the more on Zach Ertz receiving yards as well. So download the app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup on the free Prize Picks app today. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup with Prize Picks today. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. So now I want to talk about some of the discord surrounding Alex Highsmith, all right, because I've been seeing a lot of people say Nick Herbig's playing great football, Alex Highsmith is always injured, he's expensive, let's trade him and let's use him as a piece to get a wide receiver. And I certainly understand where people are coming from there. And, I think that is the way that he would get dealt. Theoretically, if the Steelers end up trading Alex Highsmith, it would be to aid to get a wide receiver like Chris Olave or Jacoby Myers or somebody of that line. And they would use Highsmith as kind of like the big ticket item in the deal. Like if they don't want to give up a 3rd-round draft pick, they want to keep their day 1 and day 2 draft capital, and they want to do like a 5th-round pick in Alex Highsmith for like Chris Olave, for example, that would be something that is technically possible for the Pittsburgh Steelers, that is doable for this football team. And listen, man, Nick Herbig is playing his freaking butt off, all right? He is playing unbelievable football right now, and to have a 3rd, quote-unquote, rotational edge rusher like him that can be a full-time starter if there's an injury is an ultimate luxury that the Pittsburgh Steelers have. And I love that he's here, and I want the Steelers to make sure that he is here for a very long time because he is super, super disruptive. Plus, Alex does have trouble staying healthy. I understand that point as well, all right? It seems like every single season he has an injury that keeps him out for like 4 to 6 weeks, just like this year with the issue that he's got going on right now. So I understand where people are coming from. Highsmith's making a lot of money. Nick Herbig, his extension is going to be coming up here soon. The Steelers are probably going to want to go out and get that done. But my guess here, guys, is that the Pittsburgh Steelers don't trade Alex Highsmith in season. All right, I don't think that is something that is going to be happening. I think that the Steelers really like having an elite edge rusher trio, and that's honestly one of the best things about this Steelers team, if not the best, is that they have the best pass rush in the National Football League. And I think the benefits of keeping Alex Highsmith on the roster are twofold. Number one, you get to maintain that elite edge trio when you're healthy, so you can rotate these guys in and out, keep them fresh as the season goes on, and not give defenses a break when you bring in your rotational edge rush group. But then also, number two, you get injury insurance in case one of your high-end guys, your starters, gets injured, right? No matter what, even if there's an injury, you're going to have a top-flight, really, really good edge rusher duo to attack opposing quarterbacks, which is a must for this Pittsburgh Steelers team if they're going to win a Super Bowl this year. Plain and simply, guys, this defense needs to be elite this season to give this team a chance against the Buffalo Bills, against teams like the Kansas City Chiefs, against teams like the Philadelphia Eagles. You got to have a complete football team, and you got to have a really good defense to be able to hoist a 7th Lombardi trophy, and having Highsmith on the team certainly helps in that regard. But I will say, I think that the talks for Highsmith in terms of a trade are going to heat up next offseason, all right, because Nick Herbig's extension is going to be up, so the Steelers might want to pay him. And then if you can get another high draft pick out of Alex Highsmith, like say someone offers a 2nd-round pick for Highsmith or something like that, you could have a 1st-round pick, 2 2nd-round picks, 2 3rd-round picks, and you could be looking really, really good at adding some really great young talent in the 2026 NFL Draft, which, by the way, is going to be held in Pittsburgh. So that would be a hell of a haul there. And, you know, you still have TJ Watt and Nick Herbig locked up for the future in that scenario. So I think in the offseason is probably the time where Omar Khan might think a little bit more about trading Alex Highsmith. But right now, he is a big asset to the Pittsburgh Steelers and their hopes of hoisting a Lombardi trophy. So I really don't think it's a possibility that they trade him in season. So pick one to trade for me down there in the comments section. If there's a team out there, let's say it's the Saints, and they say, you have to give us either Pat Freiermuth or Alex Highsmith in exchange for Chris Olave. Which one are you giving up today? Type PF for Pat Freiermuth or type AH for Alex Highsmith. You can also have the take that you're not giving up either one of them if you want down there in the comments section. Let me know your take down there in the comments. All right, so now my final one here. This one might be a little bit spicy, but Roman Wilson, I think, is another guy that could potentially be included in a deal for a wide receiver. All right, the reason for that is maybe there's a rebuilding team that could really liked Roman Wilson coming out of Michigan, and you know he's on his rookie contract, and they feel like he can be a building block for them. And maybe the Steelers just don't have a whole lot of trust and confidence in Roman Wilson. That is a possibility at this point. Now, based on the way the Steelers are talking about Roman, they seem to really like him. They seem to feel like he has a bright future, not only with them, but in the NFL as a whole. But certainly the production hasn't reflected that. And frankly, the snaps haven't reflected that for Roman Wilson. He only has 1 catch for 7 yards, obviously no touchdowns. That 1 catch came in garbage time when the defense was playing back. So it was kind of like a nothing thing. Like he hasn't had a significant reception all season to this point, all right? So if there's a team out there that, you know, has a veteran type of wide receiver that is heading towards a rebuild or is rebuilding right now and feel like Roman Wilson can be a building block for them moving forward, let's say they were high on him and had like a 2nd-round grade on him coming out of Michigan, to get Roman and then a decent draft pick in exchange for that veteran wide receiver too, I could see that being the piece that the other team on the other side of a trade could want in exchange for a veteran wide receiver. So, you know, do I think it's necessarily likely that Roman Wilson gets traded away? No, I think that the Steelers really like him. I think that they drafted him as high as they did for a reason, and they want to give him every opportunity to be a success here in the Steel City. But, you know, let's say Jacoby Myers is on the table, but the Raiders want Roman Wilson in exchange. Am I letting Roman Wilson get in the way of getting Jacoby Myers? Like, I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I think I'd rather have Myers for the short-term gain than the potential long-term gain of having Roman Wilson, especially if he hasn't done anything at that point in the season. So predict it for me down there in the comment section. Will Roman Wilson get a 2nd contract here with the Pittsburgh Steelers? Give me a yes or a no down there in the comment section. My answer to this question is I really hope so. I think Roman is a hell of a kid. He works really hard. He cares about it. And I think that he is made of the stuff that, you know, Pittsburgh people love out of their sports players. He's tough. You know, he works hard. He does all those things. So I'm really rooting for Roman Wilson, but certainly it's been a shaky start to his Steelers tenure. That'll be it for today's show, guys. Make sure you type real one down there in the comment section if you made it to the end of the show. If you make it to the end of our videos, that actually tells the YouTube algorithm that you really enjoyed our show and that they should push this out to other Steelers fans like yourselves. So if you make it to the end of our videos, you're really helping us out, guys. So I want to show some love to the real ones down there in the comment section. So if you're still here, type real one down there in all caps so we can give you some love down there in the comments. That'll be it for today's show, guys. Click that subscribe button if you haven't already. We're going to get you guys the latest Steelers trade buzz up until the NFL trade deadline this year. So make sure you click that subscribe button for the very latest surrounding the Pittsburgh Steelers.